Hi friends, welcome to Cricket Caviar. We have a special edition today. We have a special guest, Elliot. He's an Aussie, and so we might have a little bit of banter today. So, Elliot, so in India, we consider cricket as a religion. It's like we're very crazy and passionate about the game, and so we've always wondered, like, does cricket has an importance in Aussie culture as well? And if you'd be honest, where would you rank cricket in terms of Aussies' sports preferences?
Yeah. So absolutely. So just for context, I've been living outside of Australia for nearly 10 years now. So here in the US. So I can only really speak to what it was when I was kind of growing up and playing a lot of cricket myself in Perth, Western Australia. But yeah, it's up there. I mean, I reckon the only other sport that probably beats it or competes with it as far as attention goes is Australian football. Um, Australian football is like
AFL.
the grand final of Australian football is like the Super Bowl of Australia. Everyone watches it and stops. And so yeah, but besides back in the 90s and 2000s when I was playing, the it was really cricket dominated the summer, right? Because Australian football was in the winter months, and then throughout the summer months we would have, India tour, England would come every few years for the Ashes, South Africa, and all of those countries. So yeah, the summer months were really kind of spent either playing cricket or watching cricket for sure.
Does it usually start around the Boxing Day match, right? 26th of December. I
Yeah,
even
and
heard,
that's a ritual, right? That is an
yeah,
absolute like Boxing Day test match. If you're with like extended family or mates or whatnot for Boxing Day, you're either at the shopping center lining up for like sales, or you're watching the Boxing Day test. You're doing
yeah,
one of those two things, right? But yeah, the Boxing Day test was always awesome, especially if it was like a rivalry like England, right?
yeah. No, personally, that's been one of my goals, like to watch a Boxing Day match in Melbourne. Like and I've heard the actor Hugh Jackman, like he lives in US as well. Like he played Wolverine, if you remember. He says that
Yep.
he goes back home every year just to watch the Boxing Day test.
That's
He's a huge
awesome.
cricket fan, and he was friends with Warney, and yeah, Hugh Jackman
That's
is a
cool.
sport.
Yeah, rest in peace to Warney. But yeah, I mean, I like set, and we were just talking about like day one, session one, and I'm a bowler, right? So if it's a super green wicket or a dry wicket with cracks down the middle, and I was always rooting for, a couple of early wickets or some play. I would almost go for if someone would play and miss than a wicket. Like a play and a miss is like just as good as a wicket in my
Yeah,
mind as a fast bowler. But yeah, day one, session one, Boxing Day test match was always awesome.
yeah, yes. And I wanted to ask you about your experience playing the game, and also, so do people play cricket like in the on the streets or backyard or in Australia as well?
Absolutely, yeah. Backyard cricket, huge. On the if you lived in a cul-de-sac, right, you would
Uh,
you would be playing out in the road, for sure. And I had a friend growing up that his family lived on a cul-de-sac, so we're lucky to kind of own the road and play. But as a bowler, I don't like a road, right? I like to be in the backyard with the grass because you get a little bit more movement and
movement, swing
um,
movement. Yes.
yeah. But yeah, that's I cricket was kind of a religion for me growing up. Started when I was maybe 7 or 8. Started with T-ball when I was super young, maybe
Yeah.
4 or 5.
I still am more comfortable
And
with the tennis balls, especially if I'm facing you like that. I would ask you to just use the tennis ball.
well, I was never quick, right? I was kind of tall and lanky, so I used to get a bit of bounce. But when I got into my teenage years and we started using like a good four-piece like leather ball on turf wickets, so my specialty was kind of outswing, with a big what leg cutter, I guess, versus an off cutter. So
Yeah.
yeah, big outs, outies we used to call them. So So yeah, that was kind of my specialty. But yeah, I would never bowl any faster than say 120, 125k an hour. And
That's very good.
um,
I mean, you were at least following your heroes like say Dennis Lilly or Brett Lee. For me, mate, I was trying to bowl at least Steve Waugh or Ian Harvey's pace. I'm like at least go and bowl that much.
just
So
your
that
medium. Were
slowly
you a
I gave
batter?
up on.
Were you a could you hit as well, or were
I was
you
more
a
of a
bowler?
batsman, so I gave up on fast bowling after a while, and I tried some spin. I could spin it both ways. So.
Yeah, I was actually out because I had a stress fracture when I was super young. I would have been maybe 13, 14, playing grade cricket. And sort of kind of coming up in the state level, like under 15 state level, under 13 state level, and under 15s. And I did had a stress fracture in my back, and they reckon it was caused from bowling. So for a year, I wasn't bowling. So I was like, maybe this is my time to shine with a bat, right? Um, but my coach at the time gave me a chance. I think I ended up batting four, was the highest in the order I was batting, and I think that my top score for the year was 60 or something. So didn't quite work out well with the bat for me, but yeah.
And so, Elliot, what were your favorite players growing up? Were you like Vaugh brother fans, or were you like mostly into fast bowlers, Dennis Lilly?
Yeah. So very early on, my mum and dad gifted me a Slazenger V100
Oh,
Mark
wow.
War kind of edition.
Yes, Marco used to use this as a
Yeah, and
one.
I fell in love with Mark War. He was just composed. I remember his cover drive was awesome. And yeah, I can't remember him being much of a personality back then, right, as a player, but just out on the pitch, he was so good to watch. And I kind of fell in love with him. And the Oakleys he would wear, I fell in love with like the
Oh,
Oakleys. And
best fielder in slips by far. Yeah,
yes,
he would not drop
great,
anything.
great in the slips, so great
And
hands.
yeah, he was known for his cover drive. Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and that V100 took me through a few years. So yeah, he was absolute. I remember him. I guess that's in the 90s, right? He, and then I think Steve Waugh was kind of captaining at the time. And then Ricky Ponting was Steve Waugh's successor, I think. But I
Yes.
always enjoyed Mark Waugh over Steve. I don't know, just the way his technique and his cover drive was just awesome, Mark Waugh.
It's funny we don't see a combination of brothers in cricket anymore. It's very rare. The only
Crazy
I
when you
don't.
think about it, hey, that two brothers can make it like that.
Yeah, it's actually so hard as well. Like it's special. Like if two brothers from the same family can represent the country.
Yeah.
Currently only Sam Curran and Tom Curran are two players from England who are from
Oh,
the same
interesting.
family, but
Cool.
I haven't
But the
seen
Lee
any.
brothers come to mind. I don't think Shane Bretley, he was always
Stanley
on the
only
first
played
team,
few
but
games, but he was pretty good too. Like he could bat and bowl. So, but I mean that team was so competitive. It would be super difficult to make it into the 11. I remember there was a bowler called Stuart McGill. Like he
oh yeah,
barely got
yeah.
any games just because
Leggy, right?
Shane Warne was a legend. So
Yeah.
yeah, Stuart McGill would only play if Warney is injured or Warney is out of the game for some other notorious reasons. um, but that's the only time Stuart McGill would get games. And I remember Brian Lara once said that Stuart McGill would play into any other 11. Like he's such a good.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, but always in the shadow of Warney, so he was a bench warmer, I guess.
Do you think Warney was the best spinner of all time, or do you think Murley could give him a little bit of a competition? Or
Well, if Murali didn't wasn't a thrower, I would say Murali. No, that's controversial to say.
okay.
Um, I think yeah, I don't know. I mean, Warney was just such a celebrity hero down under, and he was just a lad too. I think he followed in Dave Boone's footsteps, and they would always be smoking and drinking beers as soon as the game would finish, and so they were kind of lads and very relatable. And Warney, I mean, the famous hat trick. I think he Mike Gadding, he got Mike Gadding out. on a hat-trick ball and against the Poms.
And he
And
bowled
so
the
yeah,
ball of the
Warney.
century to Mike Getting. Yeah, if that was this is amazing.
And then I think
So
later in Warney's career, he started like hitting like runs too. Like he would come in at 9 or 10 and just tonk like a quick 50.
his
Um,
highest test cricket score is 99. Like
oh, he
he
never
got
got
out at
100.
99 against New Zealand. Yeah.
That's hilarious. That's so yeah, and very sad that he recently passed. But yeah, so I would have to say Warney just because he was part of the Aussie culture and but I remember Morley being really good too and causing us a lot of troubles when he would come tour Australia. So
Yeah, that's why you immediately inspected him for his action and took him to the labs.
hey, if we can't hit runs off him, we need to take him down somehow, some other way. So let's investigate his action. Right.
Very interesting. In the last 4 or 5 years, the best spinner in the world is from Afghanistan, Rashid Khan,
Oh
and
wow.
how is world enjoying his cricket is he's playing at least 7 or 8 different leagues across the world. So he
Huh.
plays in the IPL, he plays in the Big Bash League in Australia, and he's a star everywhere. And he's
That's
just
awesome. Is he a
he's
leggy or off spinner?
uh, he's an off spinner, but he has so many variations.
That's cool. Yeah, I
And
remember the Wrongen being such a
and he usually bowls
um
at 110 Ks for a spinner. That's actually
that's
very
fast.
impressive. Like he's a very
Yeah,
good faster one, yeah. And it's
very cool.
but it's
Yeah, that's
amazing.
awesome.
Like through league cricket, all like we're able to see talents from countries like Afghanistan, like who don't get to play as many international games, but like their player rose from such hard times and very
Yeah.
poor infrastructure in cricket and everything. So
Is county cricket because I know a lot of the Aussie players would at state level would go play county cricket and get a
Sheffield
lot
Shield,
of
right?
Sheffield Shield, yeah. And then in our winter months, they would go to England. Like I had a few mates
Yeah, yeah,
that would
county cricket.
play summer months in Australia and then go to England and play. And they love the Aussies over there because they would make you open the batting, open the bowling if you wanted, wicket keep, and they would get paid based off yeah, how many runs they made, etc. But and they'll get all the girls and all that whenever they go to England. So my mates used to love that in their very early 20s. Go to England and play over there. But is it still like that?
Yeah, a lot of players go to play county cricket in England. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Awesome.
England's national team is actually has like 6 or 7 people from like different countries. They have 2 or 3 South Africans. They have their best player Ben Stokes, who was born in New Zealand. So
Well,
I think
Kevin
that's why they
Peterson,
encourage
I
everyone to
remember,
play county cricket. That's the reason.
yeah, wasn't Peterson, Kevin Peterson's from South Africa, and he ended
Yeah.
up doing
Unfortunately,
super
his
well
career ended
for
short.
the
Yeah, he was
English.
a pretty good batsman too. Like he was very dangerous. Yeah.
That's cool. Very
I'm just
cool.
gonna share some of my memories now. Let me
Yeah,
share
yeah.
my screen. So I want to ask you if you know about these, if you remember these games.
Okay.
Do you see my screen?
Yeah, I do. I see Ponting.
Yep. So this happened in 2003 World Cup where India were doing really well and Australia were the only side they lost to. Like they lost to them in the group stage. And then came the big final. We were again expecting that India is going to do something magical, but Ricky Ponting just like smashed us to all parts. And look at these headlines from the papers. So when Ricky Ponting broke billion hearts, and this one is very funny. This is like they started a rumor that Ricky Ponting has a spring in his bat. That's why he was able to hit like 10 sixes in the final. And do you
That's
remember this
funny.
innings? Did you watch
I
this?
don't. I don't. I
Oh,
mean, I remember Ponting, yeah, just having a couple of big innings, right?
he was a
At
great white ball
critical
player for,
moments.
yeah.
He was always good in clutch moments, right? Ponting, and he also went through a troubled patch too, like off the field. But yeah, Ponting, I don't remember the specific innings, no.
So it was a World Cup final in South Africa, and Australia batted first and made 365. So we could like, yeah, we ended up losing the match by 125 runs, but it was because of him. He made 140 not out of like 120 balls and like just like
Damn.
kept on attacking there. Yeah, it was. And then this is another very famous uh, test series between Aussie and Indian team. Australia were already had won the '99 World Cup, and this was Steve was last test series in overseas, I think. So when he came to India, he immediately made a press conference. He said that India are a no match to us, will win the series comfortably, and it fired up our players. So what happened is they won the first test in Mumbai. They beat us by 10 wickets, and in the second test match, because of brilliance of Glenn McGrath, it was a batting wicket, but they bowled us out for 170 odd. Sorry, the Australia batted first. They made 450, and they bowled India for 170. Then what happened is like very historical. So BBS Lakshman here on the left, this picture, he made his
Legend.
highest test score, 281, and
Yeah,
India ended up winning that test match, and it was the only time, second time in 120 years of cricket that a team won after being put to follow on. So Australia gave the follow on to India, and they double batted, but this time they made like 700 runs, and they ended up winning the test match.
that's awesome. You said it was Steve Orr's last hurrah, was it?
Last series in India, but his last series
Got it.
was in 2003 though. But yeah, this was his last test series in India.
Got it. Was he still captaining at that point?
Yeah.
Got it.
So yeah, India
Yeah,
came
that's
back
awesome.
from losing the first test to winning the series 2-1, and including one of the matches where they won even after being put to follow on. So
Gotcha.
very special.
Yeah, and there was a big rivalry with India, right? Or always has been. But I just remember some of the best batsmen coming out of India. Um, and the legend of all legends, what's his
Sachin.
name? Sachin, little magician, or I think that's what they used to call him. Yeah, he was just so good to watch, and yeah, always
He was
such good
definitely a
batsman.
prodigy. Like he started playing international cricket for India at like age of 16, and he was facing Wasim Wakar. Like his first tour was in
Yeah,
Pakistan, and like it was he was so brave, and he used to play attacking cricket, which was different other than other Indian batters. They used to just believe in the grinding and just staying on the crease. But Sachin was used to take on the bowlers. So
yep.
uh,
Very offensive, right? He
yeah.
was, yeah, didn't block many. He would, yeah, he would always make runs quick.
And lastly, I want to talk about the future of cricket in US. Elliot, do you see any possibility that this can actually become a sport here in this part of the world?
Yeah, I mean, potentially. I think the shorter the version of the game, the more of a chance it's going to have here. Like the 2020 version of the game, I can't see a world where we have Test match cricket being popular in the US, let alone kind of anywhere in the world. But
Yeah,
um, but yeah, I think 2020 cricket. I think as the US gets more diverse, right? With like, you know, Aussies, Indians, people from all over the world move into the country, it will bring that. So I potentially, yeah, I think it's definitely a world game too, right? And so I think for TV rights, when I think about potentially advertisers and having a large international reach, I think that could be a good way to kind of get more money behind the game here in the US. So yeah, it'd be pretty exciting. And the thought of having it here in Dallas, Texas, next year, or that stadium, that it was at the stadium that they're
yeah.
thinking of building here.
Yes, that
Yeah,
was the picture of the stadium that's building in the DFW area. It's in Grand Prairie specifically. Yeah,
yeah,
very
cool.
exciting. Yeah.
Hey, well, at least they'll have two fans there, right? You and me. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure if people like devote us like a little bit of time to know cricket, I think they will enjoy it more than baseball. And baseball is very vanilla, so
yeah, it's
yeah,
just a
if you can
very, it's
replace
it's been
baseball,
around for
it might take few
years.
decades, but it can replace baseball.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you can find its niche, I know rugby is trying to make a push here and has been for a few years now.
Yeah,
MLS, you've seen the popularity of like soccer
yeah,
come up, and for the money behind that. So
And do you know, Elliot, how it
yeah,
started? What FIFA did, they hosted the 1975 World Cup in the US, and that's when the popularity started rising for football or soccer. And that's
very
why they're
cool.
trying the same thing with cricket. They're trying to host the T20 World Cup here next one. So, and
Very
that's
cool.
actually a great strategy, I think.
Yeah. And I think with the humidity of Texas, we'll get some big outswingers, right? Happening with the humidity
And if
here.
we play cricket together, I don't want to face you with the red ball. Like,
Mate, I'll bowl one over. I don't reckon I'd be able to move for a week now. It's been a few years since I had a rundle, but yeah,
that's actually a scary thought. Yeah, I mean, when you don't play regularly and it's just 1 hour can take a toll on your body.
for sure. But yeah,
But Elliot, we really hope like you'll be back to our channel one more time. Maybe watching like a World Cup final together, or maybe if
that
we
would
get a
be
chance to catch up
awesome.
on playing some actual cricket, then
Just talking cricket and thinking about it, it takes me down memory lane for sure. So always happy to relive probably my best moments from my childhood with you guys for sure. But yeah, thanks for having me.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, cricket is very nostalgic for me, and so thanks, mate. Yeah, have a good one.
Yeah, thank you, mate. Cheers.